Dallas Clark, Luke Hawkinson, Noah Fant, George Kittle, Tony Moeaki. The list goes on. It's arguably the best tight end room all time in college football, and we will talk tight end 2022 for the Iowa Hawkeyes later in the show. Welcome to Hawkeyes Live right here at the Voice of College Football, Iowa. And of course, this all goes for now 30 consecutive weeks because of Corey Bratta and his work at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. So jump on over there and please subscribe to Iowa football and basketball coverage at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. But again, we are here every Tuesday night with you at 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern. Leave those comments and questions there in the live chat. And even though this is the dead period of the off season, it certainly is not the case. We have plenty to talk about, Corey.
Did I just hear you bring up Tony Moeaki in the group of tight ends? I think the last time I brought up Tony Moeaki, you laughed at me, Mark.
Yeah, I wanted the list to be comprehensive, so okay. I kept going. And I'm sure that there are a few others. Marv Cook, I could have mentioned Marv Cook that would have jumped him in line, but it's a rather informal list just to set the stage for the tight end discussion for 2022. And maybe we should tease some people that it's possible that if we get the right people together, that we could have a all-time tight end debate here at some point.
Yeah, I'm all for that. And just so people are aware, and we're going to spend, I know, a good portion of our show today talking about the tight end position as it relates to this spring and just the competition. But I think Sam LaPorta, just to kind of tease people on that, I think Sam LaPorta has an opportunity to be another really good NFL tight end. I think he's got all the tools in the toolbox, so to speak. Reminds me a bit now, he's developed into kind of like a TJ Hawkinson. He's really good with the ball. He knows how to run people over, and we can talk more about it. But I'm excited about the tight end room. Luke Lachey will be a year older, and of course some young guys in there as well. But it's been a busy week, Mark. This has been about as busy of a late February for Hawkeye football news and notes as I can remember. We had a couple weeks in there where nothing was really happening, and all of a sudden, when it rains, it pours. So I'm looking forward to this show, and I know you want to start with the Ken O'Keefe news. We did that segment about a week ago. That was about a 10-minute segment. So we really just scratched the surface on this thing. And now that we've had kind of 6 days to compartmentalize what just happened and him walking away and now Iowa conceivably weighing options moving forward, we can certainly talk about it. I know I did a video yesterday on some rumors regarding Brian Ferentz. If people want to talk about that, I'd be happy to discuss it, but I think I covered it pretty thoroughly in that video yesterday. So Ken O'Keefe walking away, Mark, has obviously started discussions about who will replace him. Will it be somebody who has a pedigree with the program? The first names that keep getting brought up, Drew Tate, Chuck Long, of course. I just want to say this right now. I think there is no way on this earth that Chuck Long is the next offensive coordinator. So I'm not saying that, I have some inside information on that, but I would be absolutely shocked if Chuck Long becomes the next coordinator. So last week we ran through like everybody that people were recommending, every big name out there. And Chuck Long was one of the first couple on the list. He's not coming back to Iowa to be an OC. I'm not under Kirk Ferentz. It's not happening. I would be shocked by it. I don't think necessarily that it's a great idea, for the record. So I think he's very unlikely he's going to be here. Drew Tate, I think it's more likely that it could be Tate. I still don't think it will be, but I do think that Tate is more of an option on the board than Chuck Long is. Tate's still in the coaching realm. He just moved back to Eastern Iowa to coach UNI. He's a former Iowa quarterback. So he obviously has more of a relationship with, not that Chuck Long has I'm not implying that he has a bad relationship with Kirk, but I could see Drew Tate. He also worked with Brian Ferentz. They were teammates. I mean, Drew Tate was Brian's quarterback and Brian was Drew Tate's center. So that would at least make sense. There are some other names out there. David Rye becomes the one that people seem to be navigating towards. Former Hawkeye quarterback, struggled with injuries here. He's been in and out of the league. He's on the Packers staff for a while. He was the Vanderbilt OC last year and stepped down from his position at the end of the year. My understanding from what has been reported, I believe it was the Tennessean reported mid-season, that David Rice started the season as offensive coordinator, and I believe they got one, or I shouldn't say even started the season, started fall camp as offensive coordinator, got like 1 week into fall camp, and he was replaced calling plays by someone else on the staff. And then later, after the year was over, he stepped down. So I have no idea what happened there. I have no idea. I believe Joey Lynch, Bill Lynch's son, as you'll remember, Bill Lynch at Indiana. I believe Joey Lynch is the one that replaced David Wright as the play caller at Vanderbilt. So sort of an interesting tidbit there. Bill Lynch, by the way, Mark, we're going to talk about candidates. I know he's old, and I know a lot of Iowa fans want young people. They want young guys to come in here. But, Mark, Iowa needs to get the best qualified candidate. I don't care how old they are, okay? It does not mean anything, because we have observed over the last 23 years a style of play that was very much different than under Hayden Fry. People love to mix Kirk and Hayden into the same bag, but let's be honest, the two coaches, these are two guys that almost couldn't be more opposite in philosophy. Yes, they like to run the football. I get that, but past that, there's a lot of differences, and I just don't think it has anything to do with age. I think you can get somebody in there who has innovation as a priority and is in their philosophy. Certainly, a quarterback's coach is only going to go so far as changing offensive philosophy. But Bill Lynch would be a guy. I believe he coached at DePauw University, which is, I think, Division III. That was his most recent job. I think he retired a few years ago. He would be a guy, Mark, that if I'm Iowa, I might reach out to. I might reach out to Bill Lynch. Because, look, if Kirk Ferentz is only going to be here for 4 or 5 more years, Mark, why do you need a young gun? I mean, I just don't get why you can't fill it with someone who can give you 5 really good years, or however long Kirk's planning on being here. Maybe he's going to be here 7. I doubt that. But I think Bill Lynch would be on my list. I'll tell you another guy who absolutely should be on Iowa's list, Mark, and that's Randy Hedberg out of North Dakota State. I mean, the guy is, I don't know how he's still there. I don't know how somebody hasn't stolen him. He's produced Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, Easton Stick, and we're talking about FCS, and I know it's North Dakota State, but it's FCS level North Dakota State. And I believe Carson Wentz, I had to look back at the recruiting rankings, but I believe Wentz was a 0-star coming out of high school. One of those 3 quarterbacks was a 2-star, and the other was a 3-star. So, like, Randy Hedberg, I think, is in his 60s as well. But again, he's producing NFL quarterbacks, Mark, and he's grooming these guys. And yes, he was the coach with each of those 3 guys. I believe he got hired in 2014, which was Wentz's first big year. Maybe his only. I have to look back. I know he was there the length of his career. But Randy Hedberg would absolutely be high on my list. And then the other guy that I would be looking into, if I would say Hedberg might be number 1 on the list. The other guy I'd be looking into would be David Yost. I think is it David Yost or is it Yost? Mark, down at Florida International. He, of course, responsible for, he's been everywhere, been to Oregon, Texas Tech. He's responsible for coaching the likes of Blaine Gabbert, Chase Daniel, Justin Herbert at Oregon, and then most recently, Jordan Love at Utah State. He's another guy, just got hired as the OC at Florida International. Would Iowa have a pull with him? Could you get him to come to be a quarterback's coach at Iowa? I mean, is that a step up or a step down from OC at Florida International? I don't have the answer to that question, Mark. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I have the thought that it's probably an upgrade. It's probably an upgrade in both salary and in stature. But that's arguable. Of course, you're talking group of 5 offensive coordinator. And when you're coordinating an offense, you're showing a different skill set that's elevated. And if you want to continue on that path, obviously the position itself is higher than the quarterback's coach. The initial names that you mentioned were all Iowa connected. There was a connection to the first 3 or 4 names that you mentioned. And until you broke off that theme and mentioned a few other guys, I was going to jump on that, thinking that possibly there was again a conservative approach in staying with what they know possibly, and who they know, and who they're comfortable with. I think there's something to be said for that, but hopefully they're not too invested in that direction.
Well, the other name that everybody wants to bring up is Tony Rasiopi. And we talked about this in the segment last week, Mark. I don't know Tony personally. I know a lot of NFL players have said very good things about Tony Rasiopi. And again, I'm not trying to knock the guy. I don't know him personally, and perhaps he'd come here and succeed. But on paper, that would be he would be my last choice, because he's not proven himself at this level to be able to be a position coach at this level. And you stack him against potential other candidates out there, like a Randy Hedberg. I mean, there's no comparison, Mark. There is absolutely no comparison. And we talked about the potential conflict of interest of bringing in the private coach of your starting quarterback or your presumed starting quarterback in Spencer Petras. And it'd be different if Spencer Petras were lighting the world on fire, but he's not. And a lot of fans want him gone. They want to see Alex Padilla or Joey Labas. So bringing in his private coach makes absolutely zero sense to me. Now, I could be wrong. I know people disagree with that. But I agree with you, Mark. I don't know why you would have to stick with the Iowa ties. A lot of people are kind of glued to that. Like, we got to get somebody who's got Iowa ties. It's got to be Long, Tate, Rasiopi, or Rye. Maybe one of those guys would be the best candidate for the job. But, Mark, there's a lot of guys out there, and I just mentioned a few of them. And, yes, 3 of those 4 guys are fairly old. David Yost is not real old. But, they're all they've proven themselves. These guys are producing NFL talent. Now, Bill Lynch, I'd have to look back at Bill Lynch's track record as far as production to the next level. But, I mean, that guy was a tremendous offensive coach, Mark. You know that. And I think if you were willing to come here to be your quarterback's coach and he were willing to give you 5 or 6 more years, you'd absolutely entertain that thought.
Yeah, I would only go in the direction of Rasiopi if I believed that he was by far the candidate.
And how do you? I just want to know because some people believe that. Some people believe it's an absolute shoo-in that he should be the guy. I just want to know, how do you gain that knowledge? Like, what are all these fans that are on message boards saying this? Like, where are they getting this information? And I'm not by any means claiming that I'm in the know in comparison with a lot of people, but I just want to know where that. Like, you look on as far as a resume and their past. Yeah, he played briefly. In fact, he actually, at the quarterback level, when he was a player, my understanding in doing some research about Tony Rasiopi is that he was at an FCS school, lost the starting job, and transferred down to like Division III. All right. Then he played over in Italy, played football over in Italy. And that doesn't mean you can be a terrible player and be a really good coach. I mean, I guess that's possible. But he's a high school coach. He's a high school coordinator. He's not a head coach right now, Mark. He's a high school coordinator at Franklin High School out in New Jersey. They have had a losing record every year he's been there. Okay. I just want to, I know he's been part of the Manning Passing Academy or whatever that is. I'm not trying to knock him. I just think that Iowa can do much better. And this is a good comment from Nick here in the chat. He says, we have $600,000 to go find a quarterback coach. I mean, there's absolutely no reason not to shoot for the stars here, Mark. And I hope that Iowa does. I hope that Iowa does. And to me, on paper, from what I know, Iowa can do better than any of those names that were connected to the Hawks.
We also had a comment coming in from someone who's not aware of who Chuck Long is. So, not making fun of that, but he's an Iowa legend. Google him, but I'll give you one line on him. As D-Rock Irish responded that he was, I believe, a pretty good player. He was second in the Heisman balloting in the closest Heisman vote in history.
To who? So and he lost to who?
The name Bo Jackson could be displaced by Chuck Long. It was that close.
And do you remember who was the third guy in that race that stole votes from Chuck?
Chuck Long was second to Bo Jackson, stole votes from, I would guess that he was a Big Ten player or a quarterback, Big Ten player in 1985. In 1985. Oh, my goodness. Well, Michigan went Jim Harbaugh. Michigan went 10-1-1. They finished number 2 in the country, won the Fiesta Bowl. Harbaugh was the quarterback.
It was not Harbaugh.
Okay.
I'm trying to look for the guy's name because I know he was the running back at. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you give me some clues, I should be able to come up with it.
He was the running back at Michigan State.
Oh, it was Lorenzo White.
You got it. That's it.
Okay.
So, anyways, I had an interesting conversation with Coach Patterson about Chuck Long the other day, and of course that race came up. So, and for the record, if you're a young fan, and like Cole is not an Iowa fan, I know Cole is a Husker fan. Cole is one of our very genuine and loyal listeners, but he is a Husker fan, so I appreciate Cole being here. By the way, and Cole, to answer Cole's question, that's a wide open race right now. I mean, I think, can we agree with that, Mark? I mean, you'd probably fall back. I think it's easy to fall back on Wisconsin. They bring back Allen and whatnot, but it's going to be a real close race. But no, as far as it relates to quarterback, the quarterback's coach, shoot for the stars. Those would be my top 3 guys. Right now, I'd put Randy Hedberg at the top of my list. I'd look at David Yost, and then I'd maybe entertain the Bill Lynch idea.
Yeah, I just think that the Grassiopi hire is out of reach for this program, in that it just doesn't seem like the type hire that this program would make. And so that's a fortunate thing based on your perspective, it seems. But it just doesn't seem, it's an out of the box selection. So
but it would also be
it
would also be an easy one, Mark. It'd be the easy way out. You go hire a guy that has worked with your quarterbacks, is going to be working with Marco Lainez when he gets here. He worked with Nate Stanley. The coaching staff obviously knows Tony. You might be right. I hope you're right. And you probably are. I fear that might be what happens. And I can't imagine it. And yet I fear it. So, yeah, and David Rye, for the record, David Rye would probably be, as of right now, from what I know, I'm no coaching expert. I'm not going to be able to tell you, I did do a little research this week for this show, specifically regarding quarterbacks being produced and sent to the league. And, so obviously Iowa's not going to be able to grab Alabama's quarterbacks coach or Ohio State's quarterbacks coach, but looking at some mid-majors that have produced really good quarterbacks, Western Kentucky, of course, would be near the top of the list as well, most recently with Bailey Zappi. But see, most of these guys, the Western Kentucky quarterbacks coach just got hired as the OC at TCU. Like, a lot of these moves, these guys who would be top candidates for a job like this, a lot of these guys have already found new jobs. They've already gotten coordinator jobs elsewhere. And that is because the moves were made earlier in the offseason. We're already almost to March. We're literally a month away, less than a month away from spring practice. So, the people that knock the idea of hiring somebody who is close to retirement, who is actually in retirement, I don't understand that, because you've got a head coach who's close to retirement, and philosophy is not based off of age. It's just not. And I've had people bring up Coach Don Patterson. I have, this is not anything that was prompted by Don. I can just say from my own perspective, Mark, if I'm Iowa, I would absolutely look at Don Patterson. He lives in Iowa City. He honestly, he might be the most. Randy has quite a track record. I don't know that Don Patterson would come out of retirement, but it would be. I don't know why you wouldn't. Why would you not ask Don Patterson? He's right there. He loves the Hawks. I guarantee you money, and I'm not speaking for Don, but I guarantee you money would not be a factor. It just wouldn't be. I don't understand why you wouldn't. But the fact of the matter is, Kirk probably had this. I don't think Ken's announcement blindsided Kirk. I would be very surprised if that blindsided Kirk. I'm sure that Ken made Kirk aware of this a long time ago, perhaps even before the bowl game. I don't know. But my point is, they probably had somebody lined up. We've not heard anything official. Perhaps there are still interviews occurring. They got to make a decision here in these next few weeks, and I would just doubt that Ken would announce so late. And it is late. If he had announced in first week of January, that'd have been give you some time. But to announce second week of February, that doesn't give you a lot of time if you're blindsiding the coaching staff to replace your quarterback's coach, whether you like him or not. Ken O'Keefe's been a part of that program a long time. So wouldn't be surprised if Coach Ferentz already has somebody lined up, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I wonder what a quarterback's coach schedule the time investment is compared to other coaches on the coaching staff. And I'm not trying to say that it's less, but obviously the players that you're responsible for is less in volume. You've got 5 or 6 quarterbacks on the roster. You probably really need to give time and attention, not that you disregard anyone, but to 3 players who are going to reasonably be playing or have the possibility of playing. And just thinking, that thought just came to mind in you bringing up Don and him being in semi-retirement. He's certainly not fully retired. He works in various capacities, but just the time investment, I don't know what that is.
I'll just say this, and again, this is not stemming from any conversation I've had with Don. Don has more energy, Mark, than 99% of 71-year-olds. Okay, that's
sure
a fact.
He does.
And Ken O'Keefe is 3 years younger than Don, but I'm biased because I'm friends with Don Patterson. But on this, I would at least consider that, and maybe Kirk has. I don't know that, and it's not my business. These personal conversations that go on between Don and Kirk, but to have him right there in your backyard, assuming that Kirk isn't going to be there much longer, it would only make sense that you would entertain it. Let's remember that Don Patterson is the all-time winningest coach at Western Illinois. Okay, he was the coordinator for Hayden Fry. He was, he worked almost basically every position besides offensive line while he was on staff with Hayden at Iowa. He's the assistant head coach and quarterbacks coach at UConn. He worked at Buffalo. I mean, he's been everywhere. He's been in the business a long, long time. He knows Iowa football inside and out. He knows Spencer Petras. Yeah, I know he's had just from my conversations with Don in the past, Mark, he's had conversations with Spencer Petras. I think Spencer Petras respects him. I think Brian Ferentz respects Don Patterson. So that's all I'll say. That's just my thinking on it is why not at least, have that conversation. And Kirk is friends with Don. So maybe that conversation has been had and maybe it will be had.
Before we get to other news, and it is a pretty news-worthy week, we wanted to honor a super chat that came in from Erica last night. And I believe we've covered one of the two, or Corey more accurately has covered one of the two topics. So Erica had asked, first and foremost, about possible replacements for Ken O'Keefe. So that's been covered. And then the various rumors surrounding Brian Ferentz and possible NFL destinations for him, or whether that's where he has his sights set.
So that's the rumor. So I'm going to give you the same quote that I ran through on my segment yesterday, because I do not want to be that guy that's just throwing out random message board rumors. This is not coming from a message board, okay? I can tell you that I had a conversation with someone that I believe is very much in the know, that has said that the rumor is, and now this person confirmed this is a rumor, but again, we're talking about a pretty specific rumor here. The rumor is that Brian Ferentz is looking to leave. He doesn't want to be offensive coordinator here. He feels like he's hurting Kirk's legacy. Now, it was reported by somebody here about a week ago, an NFL reporter, that Brian Ferentz was interviewing for the Raiders tight ends job. Okay, so that has been out there. As far as other destinations, obviously he's got connections to the Patriots. And by the way, the connection to the Raiders is through Josh McDaniels, who was a Patriots guy, and certainly Brian Ferentz is as well. Pat Hardy, KCJJ Radio, Iowa beat writer and KCJJ Radio personality, said on a recent show, he said as follows: I've gotten multiple sources saying that he's looking for a way to get to the NFL. I've got some pretty good sources that say they're not sure if it's going to happen. Goes on to say that's out there. He just doesn't want to be the coordinator. He went on to say later in the show, I heard it a couple days ago, but then 2 days ago, I had a couple people text me and these were really good sources, they're hearing a hot rumor that he's really looking to get out. So that's just what I'm just telling you the facts of what has been speculated and what has been reported. One by Pat Hardy, because he went on the record and said it on the radio. So I'm going to attribute that to him because that's his quote. And then the other person is someone that, again, is a very knowledgeable and very reliable source that has said the same thing. Will it happen? I don't know. And again, it's still just a rumor, but that is out there and it didn't start on message boards. So, we'll see if it happens. I think Brian, it would make sense that Brian would be pursuing this. From what I've been told, he's the one who prompted this. Kirk does not want him to leave. Brian loves his father, Mark. I mean, I never ever would question that he loves his father, Kirk. So I would not be shocked if Brian is concerned with his father's legacy. And the bottom line is, if I'm Iowa, you can't control what Las Vegas is doing, right? And they're gonna go through their hiring process. But man, if Brian Ferentz were to leave, Mark, and that's a big, big if, I don't think he will. That's my thought on it right now. Even if this rumor is true that he's looking to go, he's got a lawsuit pending against him. He does not have a good track record here at Iowa. He's got some serious accusations against him, not only accusations relating to that lawsuit, but he also had the blow up in the press box back in 2017 that I believe at any other university he would have been fired on the spot for. It's kind of a tough resume. Now, he did have the 1 year at New England. People forget he had the 1 year at New England as the tight ends coach where Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez broke all kinds of records. And Brian was their position coach. So you can give him a check mark there, whether you want to say he deserves the credit or not. I don't think you can discredit him for that. That is on the resume. But for the record, I don't think he will leave. But if he were to leave, this is an opportunity now, Mark, to go get somebody that can coach the offense and quarterbacks, because most successful programs have an offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach on staff. I mean, like Lincoln Riley is a head coach / quarterbacks coach. And right now, Iowa has a coordinator who's also a tight ends coach. For the record, too, I would not be, personally, this is my opinion, I would have no problem Brian Ferentz being Iowa's tight end coach. But I believe that ship has sailed. I don't see Brian Ferentz taking a demotion, Mark. That's just not going to happen. The only way for him to save face, for Iowa to save face, for him to go back to the NFL, and for the record, it might actually help if there's any tiny chance of Brian Ferentz at one time in the future becoming Iowa's head coach. It might be through that route, going back to the NFL, becoming a position coach, perhaps being elevated to a coordinator job in time in the league, and then coming back to Iowa. And if Ferentz is here for 6 more years, there's time for that movement. So it's an interesting conversation. It would give Iowa an opportunity to hire somebody that could really rejuvenate things, we hope. Although Iowa has not done good, let's be honest, at that position, that coordinator position, since Kirk Ferentz has been here. Ken O'Keefe struggled to get that offense to be even good on a regular basis. Greg Davis had the same struggle, and certainly Brian Ferentz, I think, unfortunately, things have kind of went in the wrong direction. So it's a very important hire. But boy, I keep saying we're less than 4 weeks away from spring practice, Mark. This has got to these moves have to be made pretty soon.
Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So we hope that you're subscribed there. We would like you to be subscribed right here at the Voice of College Football Iowa, but it's even more imperative that you head on over to Corey's platform from the Hawkeye of the Storm and subscribe there. Why? YouTube algorithms. 1,000 subscribers is needed for YouTube to take these channels seriously and push the traffic and push the videos into traffic. And so please check out from the Hawkeye of the Storm and subscribe. And because it's basketball season as well, so you can check out Corey's work there covering Hawkeye basketball as we head toward March Madness.
But one more thing, Mark, before we move on to the next subject on the docket. Can I just make a statement about what happened on Sunday with Juwan Howard? Because I have not been able to go on the record and comment on it. And I know you're the voice of college football, but you had to have seen what happened Sunday.
You will not get anything out of me because I don't know anything about it.
Wow. You are locked in.
I've been off the radar since Thursday. I didn't watch anything, listen to anything.
Wow.
Nothing. Family time all weekend. I didn't I wasn't on social media. Nothing.
So
And
Juwan
it doesn't
Howard,
interest me either. I know that there was some kind of scuffle, and I saw a picture today of him reaching over and making contact with a Wisconsin coach. That's all I know. I don't know what prompted it. Nothing.
So Juwan Howard gets, I just want to say this real quick. Juwan Howard gets suspended 5 games, which I thought was fitting. That's what I thought he deserved. He deserved to be suspended for the rest of the regular season. Now, you could argue he deserved to be fired. You could argue he deserved to be suspended through the Big Ten tournament, and he maybe even through whatever postseason play they were awarded. What I will say, though, is the fact that 3 players who were throwing haymakers in that scuffle got 1 game apiece is a disgrace and further proves that this conference is absolutely inept from the top down. No idea how to handle anything, Mark. We've seen this now for years. The Big Ten repeatedly makes, absolutely ridiculous decisions. I don't understand how you have a guy who literally throws multiple haymakers in a crowd of people be suspended for 1 game. I just don't, I can't fathom it. And it's not me taking Wisconsin side or Michigan side. For the record, there were 2 players for Michigan, one of which was Musa Diabate, that were throwing punches. Terrence Williams was throwing punches, and then a kid from Wisconsin was throwing punches. They should have all been suspended for the rest of the regular season. I don't understand this. I know this doesn't happen, but you could argue that each of those guys should have spent a night in jail for assault, right? You could argue that.
So are those players, my first question would be, are they impact players? And number 2, are these contending teams in the Big Ten? I have no idea.
Well, Terrence Williams and Musa Diabate play a lot. Musa Diabate actually led Michigan in scoring in their game versus Iowa about a week ago. So there's that. Terrence Williams is a regular role player. Kid for Wisconsin, I don't know. I will say this, Wisconsin right now is, I think, in second place in the Big Ten, and Michigan is fighting for its tournament lives. So there's a good chance that Michigan could be left out of the tournament because of this incident. If losing Juwan Howard hurts them, they could end up being left out of the tournament. Here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't look good, and I'm not trying to say that this is definitely what happened. Here's what it looks like to me, though, Mark. It looks like the Big Ten looked at Michigan and said, boy, they're on the bubble. If they lose Diabate and Terrence Williams, they're probably not going to make this tournament, and we need them to make the tournament. And as a result,
that's what I was leading toward.
And as a result, you suspend those 2 guys just the minimum, 1 game, and you say, well, we have to look like we're being consistent, so we'll suspend the Wisconsin guy 1 game as well. That's what it looks like. And regardless of the reason, I thought it was a disgraceful decision. I thought Gard should have been suspended. Greg Gard should have been suspended. He gets hit with a $10,000 fine. I thought he should have been suspended a minimum of 1 game as well, but I digress. I know this is a football show, but I thought I'd sound off. I wanted to do a video on this, and I just didn't get around to it. And, by now, Mark, within a day or 2, the news has become old news. So I hope, Iowa plays Michigan here in a couple of weeks. I hope that Iowa can take advantage of the fact that Juwan Howard's out, because he did that to himself. And again, I'm just baffled that Musa Diabate and Terrence Williams will be playing in that game. I think it's ridiculous.
All right. We are here at the Voice of College Football talking Hawkeyes every Tuesday at 4:30 Central Time. So please join us each week and bring some folks with you as well. And again, join Corey at From the Hawkeye at the Storm. Cam Butler is a 6'3", 250-pound defensive end from Miami of Ohio. He is a grad transfer. He is in the transfer portal. He racked up 53 tackles last year, 14 tackles for loss, 14 tackles for loss, and 8 sacks in 13 games. He is being offered by Virginia, Mississippi, and Penn State, as well as Iowa.
Yeah, so Virginia got a pledge this past week from him. Obviously, right as of right now, he could, we saw it with guys like Gabriel. They ended up at Oklahoma. But, you and I both know, Mark, that he's going to have an opportunity to play right away for Virginia. He's a first-team All-MAC kid. Iowa, another miss in the portal. And I'm not bashing them for it. It is what it is. They missed another kid. They've got 1 guy left that I know of that Iowa has offered, and that is Steven Stilianos, the tight end from Lafayette. But Butler is a kid that I had said, I think, a week ago on this show that I thought Iowa needed to prioritize between the 2 players because they have the biggest need there at defensive end. You lose Zach Van Valkenburg. You need somebody who can be an electric pass rusher. I'm hoping they'll go after the kid from Georgia Tech. Let me pull out his name here, Mark, because you and I both know Iowa's lack of pass rush last year actually did hurt them. As great as that defense was, they could have had a little bit more pressure on the quarterback, especially in those games where Iowa lost by a lot. Could have changed the game. So right now, Dominic, I'm trying to find his first name, but the transfer that just entered the portal from Georgia Tech. He is a guy who's he's been in the portal approximately, a day or two. He's already gotten offers from Penn State, Iowa State, a bunch of other schools, high major schools. I wouldn't be surprised to see Iowa get in on him. He's kind of a pass rush specialist. But again, there's not much going on right now in the portal. I mean, those two guys, Butler and Stylianos, were the only guys out there left. So now if you want to track this, guys that Iowa has offered that have selected other schools, Cam Butler being one, Nate Pete from Stanford, running back, selected Missouri. That's another miss. And then Hunter Norzad was a swing and a miss, the offensive lineman from Cornell. He ends up going to Penn State. So right now they're batting NA, Mark. They're batting 0. I don't even know if you can say they're bad. I guess they are. They're technically batting 0, but they need somebody at that defensive end position. So unless they can pry Butler away, and my guess is they're not going to continue to recruit Cam Butler. I did see that Tyler Barnes, Kelvin Bell both unfollowed him on Twitter today. So my guess is that ship has sailed now that he's pledged his commitment to Virginia, and you move on. Again, Steven Stylianos, the only guy left out there. He did visit Iowa recently, but pretty quiet in the portal right now, Mark.
Alex Moda is a 6'1", 175 athlete in the athlete category in high school football, 37th rated according to 247 Sports. And over the weekend, he committed to the Hawkeyes as the 4th rated player in the state of Iowa from Marion.
So Alex Moda, we're releasing an interview on my channel here tomorrow. So again, if you haven't subscribed to From the Hawkeye of the Storm, do that, because we'll be interviewing Alex Moda. He is a fast kid. He's 6'1", about 175. He's playing quarterback in high school. At least he played quarterback his sophomore and junior years in high school. Actually played running back his freshman year, interestingly enough, but he projects as a receiver at Iowa. Now, could he end up being a defensive back? I posed that question to him, and he would be at least open to that. It'd probably be as a safety, although Iowa's pretty deep at defensive back, I think, coming up here these next few years. But Moda's going to project as a receiver. He's fast. He compared himself. I asked him specifically, is there anybody in the Iowa roster that you would say you emulate or you mirror as far as playing style? And he would venture to say it's Arlen Bruce, the 4th, because Arlen Bruce is used a lot in the backfield. He's run on jet sweeps. Again, he's quick. He's elusive. He gives Iowa some speed. Not saying he's an absolute game changer, but he is going to be a guy who gives them some speed out wide, which is what Iowa wants. Iowa fans want that. I mean, obviously, it's Ihmir Smith-Marsette, one of the faster receivers in the Kirk Ferentz era. But as Ihmir Smith-Marsette, I would say, this isn't a diss on him, but Smith-Marsette had probably average hands. Now, I have yet to see Alex Moda really in action at that position. He did tell me that he will be playing receiver his senior year, which is good news. So he'll have a year to hone those skills in even more at Marion. We'll see if he's enrolling early. He doesn't know yet, but seems like a really nice kid, really bright kid, and again, gives Iowa some athleticism and some speed out wide, which is what Iowa fans want.
We discussed last week Chase Brackney committing to Iowa. At that point, there were no ratings listed on him. Now, if you go to 247 Sports and you look up Chase Brackney, on his player page, there is still nothing but NAs listed there. However, just a couple hours ago, I was looking at Iowa Football News and came across this article on 247 Sports. So they have not translated their article and what's listed there in the metrics from Sean Bach to his player page. But Brackney at 6'4", 250, of course, as we discussed last week, received offers from USC, Colorado, Cal, and Nebraska. And He totaled 82 tackles last year, 4 sacks and 3 tackles for loss, and a couple fumble recoveries. So his initial ranking from 247 Sports, the 43rd rated D end or edge rusher, and the 5th rated prospect in the state of Colorado for 2023.
Yeah, so, and I believe Rivals has got him as a 3-star now as well. That doesn't, I mean, we talked about that a week ago, how ridiculous it was that he was still a 0-star. He's going to be a good one. I think Iowa's got a chance to develop him. He's a big body, as we talked about last week. He seems to have a good motor. He gets off the line fast. So I think they'll have an opportunity to develop him. And again, good sign that they were able to grab him from the same school that Alex Padilla played at in high school. And that's a good sign, at least that you would have to think that Alex Padilla gave him somewhat of a vote of confidence for Iowa. So they've had, the lack of success, if you want to call it that, in the portal has kind of been overshadowed by some nice wins, some small wins here and there on the recruiting trail for 2023. They've already put together a nice little class here, and we're still really early. And they're, of course, in the top 7 for Kyler Casper and the top 7 for Caden Proctor. And I believe top 10. These kids are releasing these. I'm gonna when I end up being a Division I athlete when I'm 40, Mark, I'm gonna release like a top 30. I'm just gonna release a top 30. I asked that question to Alex Moda. I said, "Why didn't you release a top 3?" Because he had some good offers, Mark. I don't know if you read those, but Wisconsin, Iowa State, Kansas State, and he just said he wasn't. It just never interested him. He's just not about that type of thing. He knew where he wanted to go, and that's that. And I'm not dissing Kyler or Caden for doing that, but that is kind of the world that we live in. I will add this interesting tidbit, and kind of to put a plug in for that interview with Alex Moda tomorrow on my show. He did say that Kansas State recruited him as a quarterback, which I just find fascinating. Now, Mark, you and I both know not everybody is destined to be a quarterback. Not everybody wants to be a quarterback, but the idea of playing quarterback at a Big 12 program, I would have to think is fairly, attractive. That's and he said he's like, he told him to stop recruiting as a quarterback. He doesn't have any interest in playing that position. I just thought that was fascinating. He loves playing receiver, and that's a good sign. You love what you do. I don't care how old you are. He's gonna have an opportunity to make an impact. So yeah, I think Iowa fans should be excited about Alex Moda and Chase Brackney.
Yeah, that is intriguing, considering that Kansas State's a successful football program, not just a Power 5, but a successful one.
And they'll have Adrian Martinez this year as a dual threat.
They're in the top 30 range, but their quarterback play has been less than scintillating. They typically field one of the uglier quarterbacks, meaning ugly style of play. Skylar Thompson would be the most recent. They want a quarterback who almost plays a fullback style quarterback there at Kansas State.
And you remember who their coordinator / quarterbacks coach is, don't you?
Is it Colin Klein?
It is.
Okay.
So sort of interesting tidbit there. But he had some good offers, and I was happy to have him. Keep those kids in state. I mean, they're right now Iowa's doing really good keeping the big names in state. Aaron Graves, Xavier Wampa. Certainly Proctor's the next one. I mean, that's a big deal, Mark. That'll be probably the highest rated recruit in Iowa history. So you grab him, and as I keep saying, that 23 class is looking better and better on offense but man, I mean, with a guy like Moda, and then you add in Proctor, and I would think that would help your chances at getting Kyler Casper. You still got Mac Markway on the board. Those are all positive things. And I still haven't heard no updates on Mac Markway. That's another one, Mark, that we might be following that through the fall. I don't know when Mac's going to be making another announcement. And a lot of good things happen on the recruiting trail right now for 2023.
2 quick items I'd like to hit on before we start our tight end preview for the spring. One would be that we just launched a Discord. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's basically a chat room. And if you would have grabbed me 2 months ago, I would not have been aware of what Discord was either. But we've launched Discord. We had just here in a couple hours, about 11 people sign up. And so go to Patreon, search MarkRogersTV, go to Patreon, and then you can go to our Discord, and we will be talking college football there. We've already set up 10 5 channels representing all the Power 5 conferences and a national channel there as well. So you can chat up college football, and I'll be in there each day to make comments and converse with all of you. And then also, since we do have a Nebraska channel, Nebraska fan in the chat, at least one. Keep in mind, we will go live with our Nebraska show here at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central in just about a half hour or so. All right, on to the famed tight end position. And again, if you missed my comment near the top of the show, folks, I would just bask in the moderator role of Corey and some other folks, media contributors who would want to take up for their particular teams, let's say Miami and whomever else you would want to fill in, Notre Dame, Stanford, with great tight end legacies, to have an argument, a debate, a conversation that could well spark a debate / argument over tight end you. That would be fascinating, and I would merely just try to moderate and bring the facts.
No, I think we got to make that happen, Mark, because you got some great personalities over at Miami. I mean, you really do. What's the guy you do a weekly show with over at Miami channel?
We do one on Wednesday night with Cam Underwood from State of the U on SB Nation.
Okay. Yeah, he's awesome. I've listened to your stuff with him.
He's good. Yeah, absolutely.
Really good personality. So yeah, no, that would be tremendous. And I know you got a lot of passionate Miami fans. I think that's is that fair? Is that fair to say?
That's fair. That's more than fair. And I'm glad for them, even though they get a bit, we'll just say, pissed off at me at times because they are that passionate. So any disparaging word, oh, absolutely they do.
Wow, I like it.
I called them a marginal program a couple weeks ago. They didn't like that.
Well, kind of are right now. I mean, they haven't been relevant in how long? But no, it's a passionate fan base, kind of like Nebraska. I mean, say what you want about Nebraska, man. Those fans are absolutely rabid. I mean, there's no question about it. I do see a question. If we want to segue to the tight end, we can. Do you want to take this latest question in the chat here, Mark?
Sure.
From SBuck22, what incoming tight end do you favor for early playing time? Excellent discussion that we could have on this, because I think Addison Estringa. I'm higher on Addison than I am on Cale, but I am not Brian Ferentz. I consider Brian Ferentz to be pretty darn knowledgeable. I would think he's pretty darn knowledgeable about the tight end position, and he's done well there. I mean, say what you want about him as coordinator, he's had some good tight ends since he's been tight ends coach. I would say Addison Estringa, as I recall from his tape, Addison, big kid, really good hands, and so is Cale Vanderbush. Cale Vanderbush, both those guys are receivers with tight end bodies. Cale's got what I remember seeing on tape with Cale is he's going to have to really work on his route running when he gets to this level, and certainly each guy. I mean, the ability to block as a tight end is so important wherever you go, but especially at Iowa. I would give the nod to Addison right now. If we're talking about non-freshmen, Elijah Yelverton is still here. He's the only other scholarship tight end, Mark, besides Estringa, Sanderson, and of course the two starters, LaPorta and Lachey. So we'll see. I mean, the clock is ticking on these guys, and Yelverton, he's got the body, Mark. He's 6'5", 250, and he's just he'll be a sophomore next year. Will Steven Stilianos commit here? That's, we don't know. Again, he did visit, so you would have to think there's some serious interest there. I'm excited to see Addison Estringa, so underrated. I don't know if you have his profile in front of you, Mark, but I believe he was a 2-star. Was he a 3-star? Maybe a 3-star? I know he's really low. I mean, he was in the thousands. We're talking thousands as far as rankings on Rivals.
69th rated tight end in the country, and not rated nationally. Doesn't have a figure next to his name, so he's in the thousands somewhere.
Yeah, so
3-star. Vanderbush, on the other hand, is the 40th rated tight end. So I'm just a bit curious, and you gave us your reasoning there. So you're basing this on watching your own film and then conversations with people, and what you've picked up that you are higher on the lower rated player.
Oh, you're setting me up to get absolutely destroyed on this one, Mark. I am guessing. I'm making an educated guess based on the limited amount of tape that I've looked at. For the record, I have nothing against Cale Vanderbush. Excited he's a Hawk. I want to make that clear. But and I'm probably a bit biased because we did a really good interview with Addison Estringa, which I don't think we've released yet. I don't think. I have to look back. I get my mind mixed up. But he's just a really, I mean, he's obviously doubted by a lot of people. I mean, when you're ranked that low in your class, I mean, you're going to have a chip on your shoulder. And to be able to come to Iowa and play tight end at Iowa, we've seen this story before, Mark. And so, again, maybe Vanderbush will evolve. I just think Estringa looks like more of your typical Iowa tight end that develops into kind of the Sam LaPorta type. Whereas Vanderbush, I think he's closer maybe to 6'6", maybe. I could be wrong on that. Maybe he's just 6'5". But both guys have a chance to develop. They're coming to, in my opinion, the best university to develop as a tight end. And it's not a real deep room. Iowa, of course, lost Josiah Meeman. He heads over to play for David Yost at Florida International as a tight end, which I find sort of intriguing. So they lose him, and the room is just not real deep. And so these guys will have an opportunity, especially if we can get in on some special teams action. And Iowa, let's not forget, they do have some developing walk-ons, one being Bryce Schulte, who played some last year, number 48 out of Cedar Rapids. So he's an Iowa kid. I could see him getting some playing time as well, depending on where these young guys' development is. And then they got a couple of Johnny Pascuzzi's, another guy who's on the roster as a walk-on, Andrew Lynch from West Des Moines. But it's just not a real deep room right now, and it gives these freshmen an opportunity. Conceivably, if they get neither of those guys are enrolling early. So we're talking about spring previews. They're not going to be here this spring. But once they get there in the fall, they have an opportunity to play maybe somewhat early. It's harder as a tight end, Mark, as you know, to play early than, say, being a wide receiver or running back. But again, it's not a real deep room.
Yeah, dual responsibility along the offensive line, of course. Not that wide receivers aren't asked to block, but it's a one-on-one matchup in which they are not engaged in traffic on the defensive line. Corey, you had made the comment a few weeks ago that Sam LaPorta may be the best tight end returning in America. Caught 53 passes, 6 touchdowns, almost 1,000 yards last season. I just pulled up a article by Pro Football Focus where they have ranked the top 10 tight ends returning to college football in 2022. Where do you believe they have Sam LaPorta ranked?
3.
10.
Well,
I knew that would catch you.
I don't know.
Not that they're right.
So who are the other ones? I'm curious.
Okay, here's your top 10. Number 1, Brock Bowers, Georgia. 2, Michael Mayer, Notre Dame. Number 3 is Eric Gilbert, Georgia. Didn't play a down last season. Number 4, but he's a 5-star tight end.
Sure.
Number 4, Brant Kuth, Utah. Saw him for the first time really in the Rose Bowl myself. Number 5, Jaheim Bell, South Carolina. Number 6, Eric All, Michigan. 7.
Who's that last one from Michigan?
Eric All, Michigan.
Did he play a lot last year?
He played. He didn't catch many passes. I'm guessing. I don't see his stats here. I'm going to guess before I look up his numbers. He caught 15 to 18 passes last year. At number 7, we have Dalton Kincaid, Utah. So they've got 2 Utah tight ends.
Utah U, or tight end.
Number 8 is Austin Stogner, South Carolina, who played for Oklahoma last season, now with South Carolina. Number 9 is Marshawn Ford of Louisville. And 10 is LaPorta, Iowa.
Whatever. I guarantee you LaPorta will be drafted probably ahead of 7 of those guys, Mark, at least.
The only guy that I believe for sure is better than LaPorta is Bowers at Georgia.
And I know nothing about him.
Yeah, he was exceptional. He was a borderline 5-star out of California. And because Georgia already had 2 5-stars in Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington, he wasn't supposed to play. He got on the field due to injuries and suspensions and whatever was going on with Gilbert. And he had a remarkable year. And just to watch him tear up the likes of Alabama and Michigan, Yeah, he's exceptional. But and Michael Mayer of Notre Dame, he's a tremendous tight end.
Yeah. Well, I think is Sam LaPorta. I mean, I think Sam LaPorta is right there with it. I certainly don't have the knowledge nationwide that you do, Mark, but Sam LaPorta basically catches everything that comes his way. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be a top 3 round pick next year. And I just, and there was no real, I mean, there was some talk, speculation, but there was really no doubt he was coming back. I think he's locked and loaded. He's ready to go. I think he's got an opportunity to break some records this year. I could be wrong, but, and that's saying something too. If he breaks some records at Iowa, that means he had a big year. But here's the reason why I think that could happen, Mark, because you see how reliant Spencer Petras is on Sam LaPorta. So even if Spencer improves a little bit, I see them being very heavily. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Sam LaPorta doesn't break records, because I don't think that's a good sign for the offense. But you know that he sometimes locks in on Sam LaPorta and fails to look downfield. So I hope I'm wrong on that, but I think LaPorta is going to have a huge year. And Luke Lachey, we don't know what to make of Luke Lachey right now. I mean, that's another thing that could take away from LaPorta's numbers. If Lachey can really develop, because he proved last year that he's an exceptional pass catcher. And he's probably the next in line, the next in waiting, so to speak. And now that Josiah Meehan's gone, I mean, it could potentially be Yelverton and Lachey next year. Unless Stilianos comes here. If Steven Stilianos comes here, then him and Lachey would be tight ends 1 and 2 in 2023. But it's, again, kind of like running back, not a real deep room. But I like the personnel they have there. And certainly all of these guys, if you're going to be playing at the next level, are going to have to improve run blocking. And again, I give Brian Ferentz a benefit of the doubt. He knows how to teach that. I have no problem with Brian Ferentz teaching tight ends here at Iowa. And I think you have an opportunity to have a big year, whether you like it or not. The bottom line is Iowa needs to get receivers more involved. Even Don Patterson has said that. That's one of the big things Don keeps saying about the offense. You got to get receivers more involved. It's just, I mean, it's ridiculous. And I would hope that Iowa's figuring out how to do that. And that would, again, if you can succeed in doing that, that would take away some of the production, one would think, from the tight ends position. And that's not, that's not a surprise to anybody. I think the only exception to the rule that you probably see in the league would be Kansas City. They have exceptional production from Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman. I mean, go on the list, and yet they have an exceptional tight end in Travis Kelce. But you look at San Francisco, they've got Ayuk, and they've got some guys that produce as wideouts, but George Kittle is the one real weapon they have. And so Iowa, that's what I expect with LaPorta. Unless something changes, Sam LaPorta is the one guy that Spencer Petras seems comfortable throwing to right now.
Speaking of Kittle, I looked at his numbers at Iowa not long ago, today, in forming this, just looking at the current room and then just thinking, George Kittle. What did I really know about George Kittle at Iowa? I was aware of him.
He didn't do much, Mark.
He caught 20 and 22 passes his last 2 years.
He was hurt a lot, maybe a bit underutilized, but he was hurt a lot. He came out of nowhere. I mean, I think he was drafted maybe 5th round. Was he drafted 4th round, maybe?
I think 5th.
I mean, you look at hype. Tony Moeaki had a lot more hype than George Kittle. Noah Fant had a lot more hype than George Kittle. So, these guys can come out of nowhere. And if you look at a picture of George Kittle when he was in high school, I mean, that kid did not look, he looks like a WWE wrestler now. And I think he's probably going to be after his pro career is over. It's amazing what Iowa can do. And it's an opportunity. I see this comment from Darrell MVP. Can we address this, Mark? He says, here we go with the ultimate. Here we go. And I'm gonna, Darrell MVP is one of our loyal listeners. I know he's one of your loyal listeners as well, Mark. But I'm going to rip him for this, because this is one of those ultimatums that I can't stand when I hear people make. He says, Brock is the best tight end in the country. It's not close. He's better than Kyle Pitts. Do you have any response to that, Mark?
Well, I have a response to anyone who makes that claim about any player, just because we all have we all have our blind spots. We all have just our limitations. I believe that Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the country, but I would never make the statement that there's no question he's the best tight end in the country, because I do think there is room for argument and debate there. I don't think that it's a slam dunk. It's not even close. He impressed for a national championship team in big moments. And it was not expected. So there was a wow factor because of the unexpectancy. Not that he wasn't supposed to be a big player coming out of high school, but he wasn't supposed to be one immediately, was not supposed to be counted on. So, yeah, that's my only. People tend to be not real balanced or objective with their statements. They tend to go to one end of the spectrum. That's just human nature.
Well, as you know, Darrell MVP is an SEC fan, so that's all. That's my only point I was going to make. I mean, if you're a Big Ten fan, you're probably going to make that statement about the kid from Michigan or maybe even Sam LaPorta. So, you know, but you're right, and I do remember Bauer. He probably is a bit better than Kyle Pitts. That's a bit, you know, I don't know about that one. And Pitts hasn't lit the NFL on fire to this point, but I'm just saying,
yeah,
at that level, I respectfully disagree. I want to know what's going on with Darrell MVP. Did he switch channels? Because his logo, his handle looks totally different. Did something happen? Is this a fake? Do we have a fake user here, Mark? Is this a fake Darrell MVP?
I don't believe so. Maybe he's upgraded or changed accounts. We don't know. From time to time, I have people contacting me. This is fairly regularly where they state, okay, I'm really this person or that person, or I used to have this handle and now I've switched. So
right.
It happens.
Yeah. I've had the same thing happen at times. And I'm sure Darrell MVP will call us. By the way, for anybody on here this afternoon, looks like he just answered. He said he got hit by a spam bot. So there you go. He did have to switch handles. But for anybody wondering about the Iowa show tonight, there is no live Iowa postgame show. So there's a scheduling conflict tonight. So no postgame show for Iowa, Michigan State this evening. I will do a reaction, a small postgame show myself that will be recorded, will not be live, and we'll upload it on the channel later tonight. But yeah, no postgame show, no live postgame show tonight with Gary Close. We'll be back with you on Friday. I'll be in Lincoln, Mark. I'll be in the great college metropolis of Lincoln, Nebraska. So
I have never been there. Omaha is the closest I've gotten.
Well, if you've been to Omaha, you've pretty much
College World Series. I've been to Lincoln. Okay, same thing.
College World Series is great. They
is.
do a great job over in Omaha. No,
Absolutely.
They do a great job. Lincoln's not real luxurious, but I look forward to it. I've never been to Pinnacle Bank Arena, and it'll be a treat.
I see Erica's name in the chat. I just want to let you know, Erica, we did address your 2 questions from last night. So if you were not with us live, please head on back in the conversation. And for everyone that is just joining us now, of course, many of the questions that are coming in now we've already addressed. So please just wait for the video to post, and you can watch it from start to finish. And yeah,
Mark,
I am stoked now for this tight ends debate. I've got to get this together.
Yeah, you just tell me the time and the place.
Okay.
I'm guessing the place will be here on YouTube, but the time, spot. I need to know the time, Mark.
Okay.
Just for anybody that is curious, From the Hawkeye of the Storm on YouTube, we're sitting at 978 subscribers. Okay. We need 22 subscribers, folks. 22 subscribers. So I'm going to give all 47 of the people that are watching right now the benefit of the doubt that you have subscribed not only to this channel, Iowa, the voice of college football, but you've subscribed to From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Please do that. 22 subscribers is all we need.
Absolutely. I think that we have pretty much wrapped it up for a night. And we'll
Mark.
be back here next Tuesday for edition number 31, folks, here at the Voice of College Football. Corey makes this happen. And again, From the Hawkeye of the Storm, if you're not subscribed, whether you're live here with the 47 gathered or the tens of thousands that will be watching this video, of course, please subscribe over there on the From the Hawkeye of the Storm.
let's just reiterate, tens of thousands that will be watching this when it's posted, Mark.
We got to get to those numbers. We got to get there.
One more comment. Can we just address this?
Sure.
Roger Dodger says Drake London, the USC tight end, was the best in the country. He may be a big wide receiver. Your thought? I know nothing about USC.
I will say that Drake London was never listed as a tight end. Yes, he's a big wide receiver. He's a wide receiver. He's not a tight end.
I don't know. You know better than I do. I know nothing about Drake.
I know who Drake London is. Plus, Drake London is leaving for the NFL draft. We were addressing tight ends who are returning to college football in 2022. Drake London has determined that he is going into the NFL draft. So he's off the board, off the table, not part of the discussion.
Would you say he was, would you say he was the best coming into college?
I'd say he's a wide receiver.
Okay.
He's not a tight end.
Didn't Chase Claypool, did he play tight end at Notre Dame? I forget.
He was a wideout.
Was he a wideout? I just remember him. He's so big.
Yeah,
I remember him looking like a tight end at Notre Dame. Now he's with the Steelers.
Drake London. Not many people took account of USC football for good reason this year. They were just not just awful, but they were boring. And hang on just a second. This is how good Drake London was in very non-meaningful football games. He only played 8 games this year before he got hurt. He had 88 catches, 1,084 yards, and 7 touchdowns. 8 games, 88 catches.
It's pretty darn good.
Yeah. But he's a wide receiver.
That's 11 catches a game. Am I doing the math right on that?
Yep. 8 for 88.
Good
Had he played
night.
a 13-game schedule, a 14-game schedule like Iowa?
How do you average 11 catches a game?
You're really good, and you play for a bad team that's behind all the time.
Right.
And you play in a air raid offense. All that.
Yeah.
You don't play in Iowa's offense.
Thank you for throwing that in there, Mark. Thank you for that. And in response to Erica, she said...
I'm sorry. I cut you off there, Corey.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead and post the comment.
No, I was just going to say she lightly pressed the like button. I gave her a hard time because about a week ago, she told everybody to smash the like button. I said, you don't got to be so mean and hostile towards that like button. We do appreciate, though. Everybody likes the video and subscribes, so appreciate that.
If it motivates everyone to hit the like button, do it in whatever creative fashion that you would like that makes you feel good about your approach to the like button.
It's all about you feeling good about yourself, Mark.
Yes. That's what I hear. All right. Very good. We appreciate everybody being here, supporting the channel, supporting the show. And again, from the Hawkeye of the Storm, get on over there. Check out Iowa football and basketball coverage with Corey and his interview to be released on Wednesday, correct?
You got it. Alex Moda. Yep.
Okay. All right, everyone. We will see you soon, meaning next Tuesday here. But in the meantime, plenty of content to digest here and over from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We've got our Nebraska show coming up at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. So in just a few minutes, and we will see you then.
Thanks, Mark.